AKC, how you doing down there in the southern part of the United States?
Right, I'm safe and sound, but I hear there was a lot of activity up in your neck of the woods.
Nah. Well, not to disclose secret locations of bunkers and whatnot, and uh, breweries that I like to visit. However, I will say I'm in New England. And today we had the FBI visit a little town in Massachusetts, North Dighton, Massachusetts. It's part of Dighton, which is if you're going up to Boston uh, from well, not so much New York because you're going to take 95, but if you take it from like the Cape, uh, where you're coming up from parts of Rhode Island, Providence, Newport, you go up Route 24, where Route 24 and 495, which goes all the way around Boston. There's a little town there. It's called North Dighton. Little uh, little hickish, people might say. It's not, it's got some great properties and whatnot, but they're not, they're in the rural aspect of New England.
Well, a little slice of heaven in the void between Providence, Rhode Island, and Cape Cod.
Yeah, yeah, because we get some inner city places between Cape Cod, Providence, and Boston, like Fall River, Massachusetts.
But right,
Yeah,
what brought the FBI, the Pentagon, uh,
uh-huh.
the Harlem Globetrotters? What brought all these people to little safe North Dighton today?
Yeah, yeah. It appears, and if you've been following the news lately, there's been a trove of top secret documents released about the war in Ukraine. One of the documents was talking about the manpower numbers that France, Great Britain, and the U.S. has been putting commando type fighters, aka the SEALs, in there. There's about 14 American fighting machines in there helping them out. Oh yeah, Biden was like, no one is there. Anyways, this dude, his name's Mr. Texera, Jack for short, Jack Texera. And I don't know how y'all say it down in Texas, but up here in New England, it's Texera. Teixeira. It's like a Portuguese kind of thing up here. Anyways, young Jack, 21 years old, Air National Guard member, stationed in Massachusetts. He he may be a winner, as the commercial says, he may have leaked hundreds of classified intelligence documents uh, out to the internet, gaming sites, and whatnot. Funny thing is, it took the FBI like weeks to even realize this was happening. So, anyways, uh, yeah, this little man just took it upon himself to do his own little kind of WikiLeaks project and dump some stuff out there.
Well, before we talk about Mr. Jack, what do they? I was under the impression that there were no U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine. I understand there's an embassy, and it's my understanding the Marines protect the embassies around the world. What are these other gentlemen doing over there? These other soldiers of U.S., Britain, France.
But
Um,
I can only hypothesize that like before we got involved in the Vietnam War, we had boots on the ground, and they were quote unquote advisors. Uh, Listen, you don't go into a war zone when you're a member of the U.S. Armed Services uh, and not be prepared to engage. So these advisors, uh, I can just like they say that this guy may have leaked. Uh, I would say they may be involved in some of the activities. Is that nice? Is that a way of legally saying they're not? They just happen to be there.
they're
holy
just seeing the sights.
holy Captain, there's a war going on around us. Well, let's just report back to Joe and his son about this. Because after all, we want to protect Burisma out there for young Mr. Biden there, Mr. Laptop himself, so he can continue getting his money from the oil fields, even though Ukraine's in a war with Russia. But
Well, I think there's something to $100 billion plus worth of how they say it, treasure and materiel Love
Yeah,
that word. Ken Burns the wall, material, and
great word.
maybe some of our troops are just showing the Ukrainians how to use those shoulder fired rocket launchers and
Advisors,
other items.
advisors, man. You
Okay,
know,
fair enough.
it's not we came, we saw, we conquered. It's we came, we saw, we advised. Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
gonna put that above my fireplace.
yeah. Let that burn into your brain. So yeah, so this dude's in trouble, man. Air National Guard member, he's stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Uh, at the time when the documents were disseminated, allegedly, whatever. Uh, he went into custody without incident. I saw it on TV. They had him walking, doing the backwards perp walk with his hands up there with high-powered rifles. 21-year-old. Yeah, like he's at mom's house. And they got him.
Yeah, a little bit of overkill, it seems. Probably
Well,
could have just knocked on the door and said, "Hey."
unfortunately, see, our press. Once again, we talked about this. Some of early podcasts. Our press are effing morons, and they got wind that they might have had somebody in the cross sites that did this. So that pushes up the timeline to get people in there, and that's when people get hurt. You know, these media, you know, okay, the old days used to be, what, we know who the guy is. We're going to go in Tuesday morning and get him. Now you got Roger Stone, Trump's friend, at 5 in the morning with the CIA, the FBI, Men in Black, and everything coming down on his house, and you get CNN there reporting. At one point back in the height of the wars and different things, a bunch of SEALs were coming up on this beach, and somebody leaked out where they were coming. And as soon as these guys popped out of the water, all these cameras turned on in the middle of the night, 0 dark 30. These guys are sneaking up, and poof, there's all these reporters. This is how people get killed, and these how and it takes any of these evolutions and just sets them up for disaster. You know, right now I'm not a big fan of the CIA and FBI and the Department of Justice and the stories we're reading. But you know what? Now these guys had to put up the timetable, scramble, and get out there and arrest this guy before he went dark and pulled a Saddam Hussein and lived in a spider hole in the ground or something.
Well, what if someone who may or may not have done something like this? What are they facing? Life?
At minimum, a dishonorable discharge, right?
Yeah. You would think. Now, National Guard, they take the same oath, right?
Yes, they do. And you know what? And just like our president about upholding the Constitution, let's see where that leads us, huh? Um, but yeah, I mean, and there's training. There's mandatory training, especially at this guy's level of clearance. Which there's level of clearances that you're not even supposed to talk about the level of clearance. But this guy had a higher level of clearance than most people. Supposedly did a background check, and they're supposed to say. In my days in the military, we had a sailor that was getting a top secret, and they decided to go around and start talking to some of the fellow sailors that dealt with this sailor, just on a personal level at school time and working. And they came in with all these innuendos and they were asking me about this person. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not going to say anything bad because I don't want to get my my butt sued later on if this person doesn't get a clearance that I said based on some kind of innuendo. So, but you get asked. They ask friends, they ask family, they go out and check for these things. They talk about, they hook you up to machines, the whole light bulb. It's to get that level of security clearance is it's unnerving. So for this to happen, obviously our government has to change the way and the means that we give out these security clearances. That's a whole nother story. And today, I know the secretary, some secretary, undersecretary of secretaries for the DOE sent out an email talking about security and you know kind of as a reminder. when this stuff happens, I love those kind of things. This is like, you know, even in my days in education, something would go wrong and you get a letter, you know. By the way, don't slap a student. If you got to keep sending out, there's a problem. There's a bigger problem. And right now, the problem is, it starts at the top. And it started at the top a long time ago. I can go back to Nixon if you want, and I'm sure there's some other presidents. I mean, Kennedy, right? Uh, Nixon let him get away with the being elected back in the '60s because they waited to see what the numbers were, and miraculously Chicago came up with what Kennedy needed. Mayor Daley out there. Things haven't changed too much in Chicago either, but there's got to be a better way to get this stuff, and we need some better people at the top. We really do. I mean, once again, Garland, our borders are open, drugs are coming in. We talked about this. They don't care. It's just, so when you pull that string tight and you look down the NKC, you find people who just want to ruin this country. And in his own little way, young Master Jack here, he's on the front cover of papers, and you know what? He's going to have a long time to read about what he did.
Ooh. Goodness.
Called
Well,
Leavenworth.
ooh, get
So,
a lot of free time in Leavenworth, I can imagine.
so the FBI is up here. He's in Boston. He's getting. I'm sure they're finding his uniform and they're going to press it and whatnot, so he looks good as they perp walk him into a courtroom and whatnot. It's just a shame. It's a shame. It's this country's going to Hades in a handbasket sooner than I thought it ever would.
Well, speaking of Hades in a handbasket, let's talk a little bit more about a media personality.
Oh my God.
This Miss Anna Kasparian.
Kasparian,
Kasparian. Apparently, she's very upset that her apartment complex or her condo association is going to buy so many new car charging ports that it's going to cost all the residents X amount of dollars more. So she's very upset about this new outlay for the green movement, as they say.
Yeah, poor Anna. 30. I think she's like 36 years old. She's a good-looking woman. Went to college out there. Her parents Armenian. I don't know if they or her grandparents are. Which ones immigrated here. We all have stories. I get some horrendous stories about my grandparents that immigrated here way back when, and you just shake your head, and thank goodness for America, right? So this little, she's just unbelievable. She needs to freaking go away. She's on the Young Turks podcast, and it's one of those podcasts I go through monitors on my computers when I throw my pens at them and stuff, and I go, "What are you talking about?" So she's going on and on. She says that she's freaking the f out about her condo complex taking out a significant loan to fund electric car charging station. Now she lives in California. You know what they're going to be doing in California? They're outlawing gas cars. So you, young lady, you have no choice but to put electric car charging stations all throughout your little country. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just a state. Well, you have to. And she's like, but the funny thing is, and this is what gets me. You can link this. It was on the Daily Caller, and a couple other different places. It's all over the place because she's on again in the news cycle again, yapping about. She said some things about Ron DeSantis and some that weren't true, and she's walking them back like a year later. This is what these people do, Casey. They make these horrendous, outrageous statements. A year later, they go, I was wrong. Damage is already done. You already, you should already be sitting in court, and a judge ought to be finding the crap out of you for the things you've said. But a year later, you walk it back. It's crazy. So she's yapping. And the base of her yakking is that the middle class Americans are getting screwed. Yeah, she's like, and I forget the guy, the Uruguay or something guy. He's like, her partner's like, well, there's tax credits. They get tax. And she's like, F the tax credits. You still got to come out with money. You don't get everything back. Blah, 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 blah. The government ought to be putting this in and paying for it, not the middle class, right? So,
What a statement, right?
yeah. And excuse me, I'm having it's late here on the East Coast. It's like 9:30 when we're putting this together, and I'm having an adult soda. Hang on.
There you go. Oh, I see. It's a non-Anheuser-Busch product. Interesting.
Oh, absolutely. This is actually it's a little brewery up in New Hampshire, Moat Brewery. Great little restaurant, and they get beers. And every time I zip up to New Hampshire, I pick up a couple 4-packs of this. It's called the Chex Pilsner.
There you go.
USA made. It's a lager. Um, I like it. It's very good.
Outstanding.
So I like to have after my long day on Thursdays a beer, and today is Thursday, so there I am. So it's not on TV. I can do it. Anyways, so she's yakking at poor middle Americans. Middle Americans. She's a left wing commentator. She's a big lib and and just a foul mouth. And she's worried about the middle class. The middle class, they can't pay for this stuff. The government ought to be paying for it. Well, obviously, she's like 36 years old, so I don't know who else do I know that's around that age.
This guy right here.
There you are, yeah. And she so she went to high school about the same time as you did. And did you go to high school in 1997? No,
No,
no. When did you start high
no.
school?
The year 2000, I believe it was. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
2000.
Dad, Poor Dad had been out 3 years already.
The book, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, yeah, great book. I read it then. I read his 20-year. He did a new release of it, basically the same. Story is the same, and the whole thing he talks about is, with this yapper yaps about the rich. The rich have to pay their fair share. Well, you know what? You know who the rich are? The rich are all the politicians. All right, Anna. So just back the f off already, you idiot. And they pay money. They pay about 8%. 8%. 8% of 500 million is a heck of a lot more than the 20% of 90,000 dollars. All right, so they pay a lot, but you know what, they don't pay themselves. They set things up, and I'm not going to give it away. Anna, I don't know what's your address, baby. It's like $8 on Amazon. I can send you a copy of the book. They set everything up in trust. They set up companies that don't pay that kind of personal income tax. And so who does? People who just work and earn money. That's called middle America, and they pay a majority of the taxes. So you want, you're talking big out there, Anna, because you want the rest of the country to set up the electric charging stations, and your stupid little California, blonde bubblehead state. You want us out here on the East Coast to pay for your charging stations. So I did a little research. I looked up her name, Anna, and you can type in the net on the internet, net worth of Anna. She's got about a $2 million net worth. Not bad for a mid-30s chick with a big mouth and an idiot brain. So she's got to, you know what? And she's married. I'm sure her old man, because they must keep things separate, probably has some money. They should read Rich Dad Poor Dad, learn about investing and how to make money and parlay that into more money, and they can buy some electric car charging station company and support it. They have some connections in the military, and I know a dude who graduated from the Naval Academy back in the late '80s, I guess, and he's doing a startup with it. You know what, Anna? If somebody pushes you to our podcast, shoot me an email and I'll drop this guy's name to you. Maybe you guys can set up and you can invest in his company and you can take your 2 million, make it into four, make it into eight, make it into 32, and us government people, taxpayers don't have to pay for your charging stations in California. Go away, you moron.
Well, you've assigned her quite the homework assignment. But what is, I think also in your research, our friend Joe Bastardi,
Ah,
meteorologist,
love Joe.
his comments on the so-called global warming, and the whole idea that these electric cars are going to save the planet. Of course, nobody takes into account how we get these heavy metals out of the ground.
Yeah,
The lives that are lost, the poison, the fact that an electric car doesn't break even for 7 or 8 years of constant use.
yeah,
They
yeah.
never make it that long, of course. And what's causing all the panic? Joe Bastardi seems to be able to assuage those fears a little bit.
Well, he's on to something, and he, he's got a podcast. It's not a podcast. It's a weekly update on his website, weatherbell.com. And I like to listen to it when I get up in the morning, like usually Sundays or Mondays, depending on what's going on. And he talks about everything. And a lot of people throw him under the bus thinking that he's a, weather denier. Weather denier. Guy's been a meteorologist forever. He lives out in Pennsylvania, went to Penn State. He's from Rhode Island, lived all over. His dad was a meteorologist. It's in his blood. And he's like, yeah, there is some temperature changes going on. But, why? He always wants to know the why. And he looks at it and he's like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And I've been listening to him for years. I think I saw him on I don't know, Rush Limbaugh, or listened to him on Rush Limbaugh, or saw him on with Hannity one time. And he's like, it's always the why. You got to ask yourself the why. You just can't, and everything. And that's, I mean, remember the days when I know you were a journalist dude in high school, Casey, and you dabbled in who, what, why, where, and how. And there's those basic questions you ask. You just don't write an article on your feelings because then you end up like dumb Anna, right? So you gotta ask the basic questions. So he's asking questions, and he runs into this guy Arthur Vitorito, uh, another researcher. He's retired, but he still does work with the University of Maryland and everything. So Arthur started doing some research, and what he found is that there's seismic activity back in the early 2000s started picking up, the Ring of Fire, everything else. And what happens when you have seismic activity? You have volcanoes. When you have volcanoes, what do you have?
Particulate matter going up into the air.
Well, you got particulate, you got lava,
Well, that too.
center of Earth, like hot ass lava. Like boil your water lava. All right. So Joe talks about heating up a pan of soup. He goes, "Do you take your hair dryer out, put the soup in the pan, and blow the hair dryer on it to warm your soup? How long are you going to be there? You're going to be there an awful long time. It's never going to warm up to the required temperature. Now put that pan on your stove, turn up the heat down low, and in a few short minutes, you're going to have a nice boiling pot of soup to have soup dinner." He goes, so that's what they're theorizing now. Um, so what he did is he started going back and looking at the CO2 levels, and the CO2 levels were pretty consistent since the mid 50s. They've gone up. They certainly have, but pretty consistent. But they started going up in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and then 90s. But then all of a sudden, let me throw this back a second, because when I grew up in the 70s, they told us we were going to have an ice age. Just to tell, no, who, what, where, when, and how. They just said CO2 increasing, ice age.
Oh,
Now it's CO2 increasing, scorched earth, it's on fire. All right. So anyway, CO2 levels have been going up consistently, but the temperatures didn't start going up until like the 90s. And they're like, the hell's going on? You know? Well, then they start looking at this seismic activity, and it correlates to when the seismic activity started. And guess what? He reported that there are fish floating to the top around these volcanic uh, seismic activities, cooked. They're cooked. These aren't you don't do that with a hair dryer. You don't do that with a sea surface temperature of 85 degrees. You know, I cook fish, and you got to cook fish in some hot, hot liquid, usually oil. I like it cooked in oil, breaded. These things are coming up from the bottom of the ocean, cooked. So there's something going on down there. But here's the real cool thing: is in the last few years, the seismic activity has decreased. So Joe theorizes, not because of electric cars, that in 5 years you're going to start seeing a little cooling of the surface temperatures of the ocean. And the other side, there really quick there, Casey, is that when the oceans heat, you have more vapor in the air. And what holds the heat? It's the vapor. It's not the CO2. It's not the cow fart methane. It's nothing like that. It's water vapor. So he theorizes in about 5 or so years that we're going to have a decrease. We'll get back in line again. I mean, take a look at the ice age. How the heck did that happen? And how did it go away? Because we didn't have cars back then, coal-fired plants, or that many cows, as a matter of fact, because they were all frozen.
So 12,000 years ago, somehow the planet warmed a little bit.
Again, yeah. So
Huh.
now the good news is, before the sun blows up, um, space is very cold. So everything. I think I heard Rush Limbaugh talk about this one thing. Everything tends towards the cold. So in the long run, if you're worried about the planet, when we're wiped out, whether this is man-made climate heat or not, the Earth will cool back down again for itself, and then the sun's going to blow up and it's all going to be gone. So, uh, anyways, I suggest our listeners out there take a look at Joe Bastardi. Look him up, Arthur Vitorino, Viterito. Through an N in there, it's not Vitorino. 2019, he wrote this paper. It's out there. Take a look at it.
Well, that is interesting. I hadn't yet heard that, but it makes sense the way it was put together.
Well, you know what? I don't know if we can post these pictures or not. It's government stuff here, but I've got three on the stack I sent you there, Casey. I got a picture of the water temperatures in 1985.
Hmm.
And it's like blue and green everywhere, and a couple little orange spots, a couple red spots there in the Indian Ocean. It's back when I was there in the Indian Ocean. It's warm water there. I also sent a picture of a 2003 where it's all red. It's red here, some blue here, blue there. It's red. Then you look up above, and you start seeing, like in 1987, the seismic activities. How between then and 2000, I don't know, what does that look like? 15, 14, 15 was like, it almost looks like that hockey stick that our ex-vice president, Inconvenient Truth there. What was that knucklehead's name there? Bill
Al
Clinton,
Gore.
Al Gore.
Al Gore.
The hockey stick thing. He's another one. But seismic activity is just like it's shot right up. And then right now, in 2023, so far, it's back down to like the 1995 range.
Intriguing. Very intriguing.
Yeah, so let's see what happens. I mean, you got to ask why. You just can't do that. You got to ask why and everything, right, Casey?
That's it.
Like, why am I going to take 10 seconds of not talking right now, Casey? What do you think?
Well, you got to hydrate.
Yeah.
Got to stay hydrated in this business.
I just hydrated. Any folks who ever go up to North Conway in New Hampshire, it's right in the main drag. It's the Moat Brewery. It's a restaurant and brewery. They're not paying for me to say this. They get some great food and great beer. Stop by.
Next time I'm in town. But one other intriguing experience that you had today, Ray. Um,
Casey, I am blessed. My
you,
life.
you're just full of experiences. And today, tell us about meeting you at the Biltmore.
Meet me at the Biltmore. So I had. I am lucky beyond belief. I live in a little town, so we had a historical society. It's something that I didn't know. Every place has historical societies, and Rhode Island is they call it the biggest little state in the union, and it used to be Rhode. Well, what was the name of Rhode Island originally? Do you know that? They just changed it recently.
Oh, the Rhode Island plantations, something to that
State
effect.
of Rhode Island, yeah, the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. That was the full name of it. Um, and my lord, a word hurt the feelings of a lot of people. Plantations,
Hmm.
although it has nothing to do with what we think about down south and picking crops and African Americans being enslaved, and nothing to do with that up here. Um, as a matter of fact, Rhode Island was one of those states the Underground Railroad led to. I'm not gonna tell you, it's not a choo-choo train, folks. You're gonna have to Google it and do some research. Um, but big part of that Civil War was slavery, and Rhode Island accepted a lot of people for it. And anyway, so tonight we're at the Historical Society up here. Rhode Island's got more historical societies in its little state than any other state. It seems like every town has a historical society, and they're beautiful places to go. Treasure trove of information and artifacts. Well, we went to a speech tonight given by Amanda Blount, and Amanda's actually a carpetbagger from New Jersey. Here in 2018 with her husband. Uh, she was looking for a project to do. She wanted to write a book, and she was looking around. And so we got this hotel up in Providence. It was called the Biltmore. Been around for 100 years. The Gilded Age and all this stuff, and big bands, and everyone. If you went to Providence, the whole thing was to stay at the Biltmore. So Amanda wrote this book, and it's kind of a multifaceted story. Um, she got up here in 2018, started doing research, and then she was going to do the real research. And then COVID hit, and she was pregnant. So she started going around trying to find archives on everything there is in the Biltmore. And the big archive in town was with the Providence Journal newspaper, but it's a private archive.
Hmm.
I mean, really? So it's only open to some scholars and whatnot. So she did some work around during during the start of COVID, pregnant. She was like, listen, I want to write this book. I need people to help me out here. She went to everyone, and no one would open their doors. Finally, she went to the Community College of Rhode Island, a 2-year program, talked to some people, and they said, we'll give you access. We have access to that because we're a high education uh, establishment. And so they gave her, some rights, but they said, caveat, it's COVID, can't come in the building. No one's in the building because everyone's home. Classes are shut down. All the instructors and professors and whatnot are at home. No one's in the building. Huge building up in Warwick. It's their main campus. Huge. They said, you can sit outside and connect to the Wi-Fi and do research. It's like March. You've been to New England in March, folks? It's nasty still up here. It's nasty. And daffodils don't come out to April, right? I've had snow. Matter of fact, I got married in April, and it snowed on my wedding day back in the day. So, March is terrible. So she's pregnant, 6 months pregnant, parked outside the fire escape where she can get the Wi-Fi and access the documents. She downloaded 14,000 documents for her research, 380 hours worth of work in her car, her little Toyota, while she's pregnant. What did we say earlier when we were talking about the show tonight, Casey? People are so stupid. This whole thing with COVID.
It revealed this people's stupidity
And if you
and their
try
panicked reactions. And
to do the who, what, where, when, and how, I guess that's the theme of our show tonight. You were shut down. No, how dare you? You don't have the right to ask any question. Just, but and on the flip side of that coin, she had the tenacity to sit in her car pregnant and put this book together. And it's a fantastic book with pictures and stories, wait staff, uh, people who've met there, the ballrooms, the hurricane of 1938, what it did to the Biltmore. And New England took a beating back then before Joe Bastardi was a weatherman. Uh, it's got it talks about Buddy Cianci, and if um, Don Imus used to talk about Buddy Cianci. It was he's a big name and whatnot. Um, there's a lot of just so much information that it's how many pages is it? It's just tons. It's over 300 pages of stuff.
I mean, with the Biltmore, it's been there over 100 years, right? I mean, if
Fillmore got it's been bought and sold. The Sheraton bought it for a while. Now some other guys built it and they're building it up. It's just it's the name of the game with these old hotels. In Newport, they got one. It's called the Viking Hotel.
Hmm.
It's in an old,
especially when you're talking old time Providence politics. I mean, if the Biltmore walls could talk, and I'm sure she's got some of those stories in there.
and they are. And she's met mafia members. Patriarca family was there. Yeah, the son of one of the knuckleheads there, and had a little chicken coop on the roof. There's the start of the farm to table movement was there. Quite honestly, farm to table is an old thing that was happening way back when we didn't have the ability to move food like we do now. I was in Denver, and they had a lobster restaurant, fresh lobsters. I went in. I'm like, dude, I'm from New England. I get lobsters off the boat. The guy's like, yeah, so do we. We threw these out this morning. They're fresh, and God bless the Wright brothers. Spreading lobsters to the Rocky Mountains. Why would you do that? Stick with Rocky Mountain oysters. You don't need lobsters up there. Just you want a lobster, go to the coast. It's crazy.
And what's the title of the book one more time?
Meet Me at the Biltmore. I wish you can see it, folks. It's got a Gilded Age dancing picture on the cover. I wish I knew who it was. I haven't read the book yet. I just got it tonight. The book's $20. Stillwater Press. It's a local publishing company here in New England. STILL waterpress.com. You can get it there. The book. Not only is it a great looking book, it's just the author had tenacity during a downtime of our world, and just gritted out.
No excuses, and she got it done.
Excuses,
Right on.
and that's another takeaway from this whole thing tonight, folks. Get off your butts. We we have not hit the bottom yet. Everyone says Trump, 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 Trump. Say what you want, but during that time, there was a lot of peace. During Trump's area. And and they go, what you talking about? MAGA, you maggot idiot. I'm not a MAGA idiot. You folks need to research it. What this guy is doing in office now, and this whole group of people, pull that string tight and look who's at the other. They're trying to ruin the country and kill your kids with all this fentanyl, open borders, tax giveaways.
Troops, troops in Ukraine, World War III on the horizon.
And there's a lot of other stuff that came out on this.
We'll cover that in our next show for sure.
Yeah, we might go over it. Jack's in a world of doo doo. In the world of doo doo, he's going to be at the bottom of the pile.
Oof. But Ray, most importantly, who is sponsoring and bringing us this show tonight?
Well, it's not this beer, but it is the Go Do app.
How do you spell do?
D-U.
The Go Do app. Apple App Store, Google Play Store. Check it out. Find all the venues in your area, nightclubs, bars, restaurants, and breweries.
My favorite's breweries. We got a tab on there for breweries. And as a matter of fact, if you're up in North Conway and you open up the app, you will see the Moat Brewery and Restaurant.
There you go.
Outstanding place to check out with what Uncle Ray likes here. And
there we go, Uncle Ray. Well, we will talk to you all next time. Check out the Go Do app and do some research on the seismic activity.
Shake, rock, and roll.
There it is.